everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's another true crime video. Thank you so much for everybody who's shown support. We're almost at 400 subscribers. I'm so excited. So thank you for everybody that has shown support and subscribed. Today's case is graphic, so please be warned. It is on the Farmville Murders, also known as the horrorcore murders. I'm going to be listening and reacting to some horrorcore music. It's known to be quite violent, quite heavy stuff. So we'll see how that goes. I've never listened to it before. I also want to say that I'm not blaming the music for this murder at all. Listen to whatever you want to listen to. That's not my business. There is a lot of people that did blame the music for this, but then that kind of is just like the argument of violent video games, etc., etc. That's your personal belief. I'm not going to get into that, but yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video and make sure you stay tuned for more in the future. Let me know if there is any other cases that you want me to cover. Just comment them down below or DM me on Instagram. Richard Samuel Miroshnichenko III, also known as Sam, was born on December 26, 1988 in Hayward, California, where he lived with his parents and older sister Sarah. In 2003, the Miroshnichenko family moved to Castro Valley, California, which is just 3 miles north of Hayward. Richard's parents split up in the summer of 2009. Richard took it hard when his mother moved out of the family home at the request of his father. He attended 2 high schools as a teenager but dropped out of both. School was a miserable place for him. Richard was bullied for being an outcast, being overweight, and for his red hair. His sister Sarah described him as very passive and someone who rarely stood up for himself unless seriously provoked. As a result of his bullying and shyness, Richard had very few friends and spent the majority of his time at home by himself. He also spent a lot of time on the internet, especially on the social media site MySpace. This became Richard's escape from reality. In 2008, Richard was still living at home, working part-time as a graphic designer and dabbling in making music. He mostly produced music from the genre horrorcore, or also known as horrorcore rap. He uploaded his music on MySpace under the name Skyco Sam and began communicating and making friends with other horrorcore fans and rappers. So Skyco Sam's music is still up on the internet. You can find it on YouTube, and that's what I'm going to be reacting to today. So let's see. Right? Well, we're just going to stop it there before, I don't know if it'll get any worse. Not worse, but more gory and graphic. So I am kind of lost for words only because of what he did. And it's just quite eerie listening to that, knowing what he did. Me reacting to that music was one, to give you an insight of what this kind of music entails. And also, again, to kind of provide knowledge of Skyco Sam's mindset and, you know, was this premeditated? Did he want to do this all along? I don't know, but we'll get into that. Also, that wasn't me like taking the mick out of that music. Again, as I've already said, listen to what you want. It's not my business, and it's just not my type of music, so yeah. In September 2008, Emma Niederbrock, aged 15 at the time, met Richard, also known as Skyco Sam, aged 19 at the time, on MySpace. It was the horrorcore rap music that brought Richard and Emma together. Richard was this amateur horrorcore rapper, and Emma was a huge fan of the genre. When Emma and Richard first met online in 2008, they quickly became close. The two began chatting regularly online and on the phone. Emma Niederbrock was born on October 15, 1992, to parents Mark Niederbrock and Deborah Kelly in Champaign, Illinois. It's not clear when the family moved from Illinois to Farmville. Mark began serving as a pastor at Walker's Presbyterian Church in Hicksburg, Virginia, in 2003. Deborah was a professor in sociology and criminal justice at Longwood University in Farmville. Emma had been homeschooled since middle school. At the beginning of 2009, Mark and Deborah divorced. Emma stayed in the family home with her mother, and her father moved out. As many teenagers do, Emma spent a lot of time on the internet, mainly using MySpace. She went by the username Ragdoll. She used the website to listen to horrorcore music and meet other fans. MySpace was also where Emma and her friends found out about the upcoming horror music festivals. By September 2009, the now 16-year-old Emma and 20-year-old Richard would send affectionate messages and chat daily for almost a year. Strictly for the Wicked was an all-day horrorcore festival that was scheduled for September 12, 2009 in Southgate, Michigan. Emma and her best friend, 18-year-old Melanie Wells, had made plans to attend. It's unclear how Melanie Wells and Emma became friends or when they became friends. However, Melanie Wells lived in Inwood, West Virginia. Her and her family moved to West Virginia from Louisville, Kentucky, just before she was about to enter high school. She attended Musselman High School. Emma and Melanie both bonded over their love for horrorcore music. Deborah, Emma's mom, did become a little bit concerned with Emma's taste in music as it got more and more gorier. She sent Emma to counseling just in case something was going on. Emma and Richard spoke about the Strictly for the Wicked festival and decided it would be a great opportunity for them to meet in person for the first time. Emma's parents were understandably a little uncertain about their 16-year-old daughter meeting up at a festival with a 20-year-old man she had ever only spoken to on the phone. But they wanted Emma to be happy. So Mark and Deborah decided that they would drive Emma, Melanie, and Richard to Southgate and hang out in the city for the day while the festival was going on. On September 6, Richard left California for Virginia. Emma was excited to finally be meeting him in person, and she posted on his MySpace on September 7th, "Next time you check your MySpace, you'll be at my house." She added, "I love you so, so much, forever and always." Emma and her mother picked up Richard from Richmond Airport. The teens were both giddy with nerves and excited at the prospect of meeting for the first ever time. However, when Emma first set eyes on Richard the day he arrived at her house, or in the car, she was not impressed. He had evidently made an effort to change his appearance on his MySpace photos, and in reality, he looked like a different person. He appeared far younger than his 20s and was quite short. She apparently confided with her friend Melanie that Richard was not nearly as cool and tough as he portrayed himself online. She also did not find him attractive. Emma was polite to Richard, but rather aloof. The timeline isn't completely clear, but Richard either arrived at Emma's home in Farmville on the 7th or the 8th, and then Melanie arrived at Emma's on the 7th. Richard was allowed to stay at Emma's and her mother's house for several days before the concert. Melanie was also staying there. The drive from Farmville, Virginia to Southgate, Michigan was around 10 hours with no stops. The 5 of them, Emma, Melanie, Richard, and Emma's parents, were in for a long, awkward car ride together. Richard hoped that once they had arrived at the festival and they were both in their element, immersing themselves in the music and the vibe, Emma might have seen him in a different light. In the fact, the situation only went downhill once they reached their destination. According to others at the festivals and other articles, Emma avoided Richard. Not only was she not interested in him, she was reportedly flirtatious with other guys and may have even hooked up with one of the horrorcore performers at an after-party. During their time at the festival, Richard went through Emma's phone and found some messages that upset him. His anger lasted all the way throughout the concert and through the trip back to Emma's house. The festival ended at 11 p.m. on September 12th. The following day, the 5 of them drove back to Farmville from Michigan. At 2:43 a.m. on Monday, September 14th, Melanie posted on her MySpace page. This was her final post. After the post to her MySpace page, Melanie went quiet. Neither her friends nor her family heard from her at all that Monday or Tuesday. This was not like her at all. After repeated failed attempts to get in touch with their daughter, Thomas and Kathleen Wells became worried. On Wednesday, September 16th, the day that Melanie was due to come home, Thomas drove 200 miles from Inwood, West Virginia to Farmville. When nobody answered the door at the home of Deborah Kelly, Thomas sat outside in his car and waited. He hoped that the women were just out and he would see them return home. After waiting for an upwards of 7 hours, Thomas was quite sure that no one was coming. Reluctantly, he drove away from Emma's house, unable to shake that there was just something horribly wrong. When her husband returned home, with no word from Melanie, she had called Emma's home several times, but nobody answered. After Kathleen's own investigation, she came across the phone number for Andreas Schrimm and gave him a call. Andreas owned Serial Killing Records, SKR, which is a small independent record label. They also had organized the Strictly for the Wicked festival. Andreas answered and told Kathleen that he had seen Melanie, Emma, and Richard at the festival, and that they had gone home with Emma's parents when the event ended. Beyond that, he did not have any more information, but if he found anything else out, he would let her know. After calling Andreas, Kathleen called Emma's home again. Somebody did answer. It was Richard. Kathleen asked him where Melanie was, but he couldn't give her a straight answer. She grew frustrated. On the morning of Thursday, September 17th, Kathleen called the police in Farmville, and she explained the situation and asked them if they could go by the house and do a welfare check. When the police did arrive at the home of Deborah Kelly and Emma, they were greeted by Richard. When they asked him where Emma, Melanie, and Deborah were, he told them that the women were at the movies. The police did not know who Richard was, but they took his word. They did not question him further or take a look inside. Melanie was 18, so she would be classed as an adult. The police also did not know that Richard did not live in the house, so they did not really have any other reason to be suspicious of why he was there on his own. After the welfare check on the morning of September 17th, Kathleen called Mark Niederbrock, and she explained how worried she was about Melanie. Mark, who lived about a 20-minute drive from Farmville, told Kathleen he would go down to Emma and Deborah's home and see what was going on. He told her not to worry and that he would call her straight after he spoke to Melanie. This was around 5 p.m. And Kathleen would never hear from Mark again. Nobody knew that there was a crime scene that would be later described as a slaughterhouse. Richard had killed Emma, Melanie, Deborah, and Mark. Richard's motive for the murders was his rage towards Emma for rejecting him at the music festival. Mark, Deborah, and Melanie were really just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Richard had been drinking and smoking marijuana when his rage boiled over and he snapped. Melanie was killed first whilst she slept on the couch in the den. He then killed Deborah in the room upstairs, and finally Emma in her downstairs bedroom. The 3 women were murdered in the early hours of September 15th with a ball-peen hammer. None of them awoke during their attacks. This was indicated by the absence of any defensive wounds. So from around 3 a.m. on Tuesday, September 15th to 5 p.m. Thursday, September 17th, just before Mark arrived, Richard had sat in the home with 3 dead bodies. During this time, the police had arrived at the home to conduct the welfare check that Kathleen Wells had requested. When Mark went to the home on September 17th, he was ambushed in a room downstairs. Mark was beaten to death with an 8-pound wood-splitting maul. After murdering Mark, he dragged his and Melanie's body into Emma's room, and for some reason he then tried to clean up the den. He also recorded a video of himself in which he spoke to the camera, saying how he knew he would have to pay the consequences for what he had done, and that he was contemplating suicide. Now, this is so disturbing if it is true, but he may have also performed rap songs and recorded himself and singing to the bodies and using them as a crowd. At around 3:45 a.m. on Friday, September 18th, Richard fled the scene in Mark Niederbrock's car and stole cash from Mark's wallet. Shortly after Richard had left in the car, he crashed into a ditch. And a homeowner who lived on Poorhouse Road in Farmville called the police to report a car that had gotten stuck. A tow truck and a deputy showed up at the home, and Richard was given a ticket for driving without a license. The bodies of Mark, Deborah, Emma, and Melanie would not be discovered for another 12 hours. So Richard was not wanted by the police at this point. Whilst the deputy and Richard were talking, it came up that he had plans to fly home to California the following day, which was Saturday the 19th. The tow truck driver, Elton Napier, offered to give Richard a ride, which he had accepted. Napier told the media that he had never experienced such a terrible smell in his life and had to hold his head out of the window to stop himself from gagging. Other witnesses said that the odor was similar to rotting flesh. Apparently, Richard had neither bathed nor changed his clothes since the night of the murders, which was several days earlier, and his clothes were described by witnesses as caked in gore. On the morning of September 18th, Kathleen called the police again. Mark never got back to her, and she convinced the police to return back to Deborah and Emma's home. When the police arrived at the home at around 3:20 on Friday, September 18th, they found the door to the home unlocked. And as soon as they opened that door, they smelt the stench of death. I don't know if the police just didn't notice the smell the day before when they performed the welfare check, or maybe it just didn't smell. I'm not too sure. But inside the home, they found 3 bodies in Emma's room and a body upstairs. Mark, Deborah, Emma, and Melanie were not formally identified until Monday, September 1st. The scene was described by the police as so horrifying they would not be able to elaborate on details other than the victims had died from blunt force trauma. After going through evidence in the home and checking the social media accounts of Emma and Melanie, it did not take long to figure out that Richard had been with the girls at the festival and had come back to Farmville with them. This was when a manhunt was declared for Richard McCroskey. Richard caught a cab to Richmond International Airport on the Friday of the 18th. He planned to stay the night before catching a flight to California the next day. The officer that gave Richard a ticket quickly notified other officers and said that that man is at Richmond Airport and is about to board a flight back to California. And early in the morning of September 19th, police apprehended Richard McCroskey, who had been sleeping in a chair in the baggage claim at Richmond International Airport. On October 19, 2009, Richard was indicted on 6 counts of capital murder, 1 for each of his 4 victims, as well as capital murder for murdering multiple people within 3 years. His court-appointed attorney told Richard that they would have to reach a plea deal in order to avoid a trial, with that of the death penalty. Nearly a year later, on September 20th, 2010, Richard pled guilty to 2 counts of capital murder and 2 counts of first-degree murder, and waived his right to an appeal. He was given 4 life sentences in prison. In most of the photos of him getting led away by the police, you can see him smirking and smiling. Richard McCroskey is currently incarcerated at Wallens Ridge State Prison at Big Stone Gap, Virginia. Okay, that is the end of today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and sorry this has been quite a long video. Feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you around my channel in the